As sea stretches into land, salt and fresh water combine to form a wondrous zone. Because of its amazing capacity to cleanse waterways, it's referred to as the Earth's kidneys. No region on the planet is more affected by the tides as these transitional zones between land and sea. Their rich biodiversity makes them crucial stops for migrating birds. Countless species live, multiply, and breed here. But the story of the coastal wetlands is also one of a daily struggle for survival. The Liaodong Bay, northeast China. In winter, the temperature here can drop to below -20 Celsius. The coastal wetlands are dotted with withered reeds. The earth here is highly saline, making it hard for plants to survive. But when the temperature rises, seepweed begins to germinate, bringing new vitality to the wetlands. Every summer, tens of thousands of Saunders gulls return from the south to breed here. This gull chick is waiting for its parents to come back with food. But it's also curious about the new world. The male forages for food. When the female rushes over to demand some, he obeys without any resistance. It's a simple division of labor. The male finds food, and the female takes it back to the nest. But the chick is nowhere to be seen. It seems to hear its mother's call. The coastal wetlands are home to countless lives. For Saunders gulls, they are a breeding ground. When fall arrives, the tidal flats turn a fiery red. It's a breathtaking natural scene. Dropping temperatures and reduced sunlight result in seepweeds decreasing their chlorophyll content. This allows them to reduce photosynthesis and preserve more water, taking on a red color. Scientists are still unable to explain this phenomenon, but understanding the world around us is destined to be a long journey. The Saunders gulls prepare to migrate south. The full-fledged birds can now forage and fly. But those born later still need their parents to feed them. Adult birds, however, also need large amounts of food to store up energy for the coming journey. Many chicks are left behind in the tidal flats. Some die of hunger. The migration begins. If these birds don't learn to fly soon, their chances of survival will be slim. A chick enters the territory of some common red shanks uninvited. They are not in the mood to entertain guests. The adult birds are too busy leaving to help the chick. Its fate is uncertain. Nature is magnificent and ruthless. Coastal wetlands offer shelter to countless birds when they are young, and some species for their entire lives. But it's also a dangerous place where unique skills are needed to survive. A large number of water birds live in the South Yellow Sea. For smaller wetland species, They are ferocious predators that must be avoided at all costs. One of these creatures is the Warty Slug, a master of disguise. Its brown and rough skin is the result of millions of years of evolution. It blends into its surroundings, making it hard for natural enemies to detect it. 10 square meters of tidal flats can sustain thousands of warty slugs. The ancient mollusk has an eye on its back that senses changes in sunlight. The soft antenna on its head is sensitive enough to help it navigate obstacles. It also has an almost magical capacity to sense changes of seasons and tides. The largest tide of the year will soon arrive, presenting the best opportunity to mate. The warty slugs go into action. As it might take days to find a mate, they must be sure to have enough food. Luckily, the tidal flats are filled with microorganisms. The great tide is approaching. The warty slugs have to find their mates as soon as possible. But true love has never been easy. Warty slugs are hermaphroditic and have both male and female reproductive systems, but they still have to be cross-fertilized. The right mate must be similar in maturity level and body size. But a happy marriage also requires cooperation. Each half of the couple needs to attach its head to the other's tail. Then they form a circle and start rotating. Only in this way can they both be fertilized. After mating, warty slugs must lay their eggs as quickly as possible. The eggs are laid on the tidal flats so that the largest tide of the year can take them out to sea. There they will stay until they are fully grown. Then they'll return to their home. Tidal flats are zones where land and sea transition and are areas most heavily affected by tides. Seawater periodically covers coastal beaches, leaving an abundance of nutrients that countless species live off. Early summer. This distant island in the North Yellow Sea serves as a safe breeding ground for migrating birds from the south. Black-faced spoonbills nest on cliffs. This endangered species has migrated from the south of China to breed here. A male is looking for the right branches to reinforce his nest. The female has been waiting a long time. This year, 3 chicks were born. Although they are very young, they must quickly learn to fly before the temperature drops. They need a lot of food. After observing and sensing a change in the tides, the male flies from the cliff to a tidal flat, a dozen kilometers away. The tide is ebbed. It's the perfect time for foraging. Black-faced spoonbills have a distinctive way of foraging. The male, an experienced hunter, sticks its long beak into water to search for prey. This is hard physical work. He must return to the nest as quickly as possible. The chicks are becoming impatient. The food from one hunt is not enough for all of them. Father has to leave again. chicks are left alone on the cliff. The oldest can't wait to get moving. Without the parents watching, the cliff is full of dangers. But the chick is eager to fly and starts exercising its wings against the wind on the cliff top. A month has passed. The chicks are now fully fledged birds. The time for migration is drawing near. It has to make its maiden flight as soon as possible. It climbs to the top of the cliff. The cliff is over 50 meters high. Failure is not an option. It focuses all its attention and musters up its courage. The father watches him closely. If the chick's wings get wet, it will be hard for it to take off again. Success. The adult birds will accompany their chicks on their first long journey in life. Creatures in different ecosystems survive in different ways. Coral reefs, seagrass beds, and mangroves are all part of the marine ecosystem. Mangroves are woody plant communities that grow in seawater. Their highly developed roots allow them to withstand strong storms and waves. They are better than any other land plants at adapting to saline soil. They also serve as shelters to countless creatures. One of them is the cocktail ant. These tiny insects nest on branches to avoid natural enemies and tides. Although only around 5 millimeters long, they can build a nest of about 50 centimeters in diameter. These ants are highly social, establishing connections not only with each other, but also with different species. These cocktail ants are looking for their friends, scale insects. They usually live on leafbacks to avoid natural enemies and strong sunshine. The two species have a very special relationship. A moth larva has invaded their territory. It can devour an entire leaf in a short time, devastating the scale insect's habitat. The worker ants are instantly on the alert. They quickly exchange information and prepare to expel the intruder. They aim their stingers on their abdomens towards the intruder. The caterpillar is over 100 times bigger than the cocktail ant, rendering their stingers ineffective. But the ants have powerful jaws that can gnaw away hard wood. They change their strategy and begin to tear at the intruder's hairs. Caterpillar strikes back. With a giant body, it tries to push the ants off the branch. But the worker ants fight as a disciplined unit. Exhausted, the caterpillar flees the battlefield. It was a hard-fought battle. Luckily, the secret partners are safe and sound. After winning the battle, the cocktail ants tap the scale insects with their antennas. Receiving the signal, the scale insects begin to secrete honeydew, which cocktail ants feed on. The ants then share the honeydew with their companions. The scale insects supply the ants with sweet honeydew in return for their protection. It's hard to believe that these tiny creatures can build this kind of symbiotic relationship. But there are many more wonders to be explored in the wetlands ecosystem. Creatures can work together. But in nature, survival of the fittest is still the main law. And the mangrove is full of predators. A chameleon keeps a low profile as it waits for its prey. On today's menu, cocktail ants. The ants have no chance against the chameleon. But the ants are just an appetizer, and the chameleon wants a main course. It spots a Chinese mantis. but this prey is more agile. The chameleon patiently bides its time. Now, it's all part of the never-ending struggle of life and death. Coastal wetlands have a rich biodiversity. Their abundance of water, food, and habitats attract numerous creatures, including many large animals. These are the wetlands in Dafeng on the coast of the East China Sea, home to the Milu deer. This deer used to be unique to China, but disappeared from the country in the late 19th century. In the 1980s, a few Milu deer were introduced back into China and released into the wild. They have now grown into a large population in Dafeng. In late spring and early summer, young male deer become unusually energetic. They decorate themselves to attract the females. The male emits a scream to court the female. But she belongs to the king, who rules and guards over dozens of females. He will not allow any other deer to mate with them. The king sniffs the air to capture mating signals sent by females. The young male will not just give up. He sneaks into the herd of females. But the king will not tolerate infidelity from his females. He is a powerful figure, but the young deer decides to challenge his authority. The two opponents move around to gauge each other's strength. The king is old but experienced and will not surrender his crown so easily. It proves to be an equal match. The challenger sharpens his antlers in preparation for a deadly strike. A stab in the guts could lead to a painful death. The young male attacks. There is a new king now. After years of rule, the old king has fallen. A gruesome end awaits him. To the victor, the spoils. Every animal's ultimate aim is to pass down their genes. To achieve this objective, animals are prepared to fight at any time. In this warm and humid climate, mating has become a pressing issue. Inevitably, this leads to fights. In Hainan Island, mangroves form marine oases. The wetlands are dotted with strange tree roots. Some even grow upward. The wet earth is so short of air that the roots have to come out of the ground to help the mangroves breathe. The forest is inhabited by small creatures with blue and green foreheads. They are sesarmid crabs. These skilled climbers mainly feed on leaves and flowers. They have to consume carotenoid to maintain the bright color of their foreheads. This is a sign of a strong body and is very important for attracting females. Mangrove plants have extremely fast metabolisms and grow in all seasons. A constant supply of fresh and fallen leaves provides an abundance of food for the crabs. The arrival of the mating season triggers drastic changes in animal behavior. The male crab is enthusiastic, but the female doesn't seem to be in the mood. The male will not just give up. He drags the female with his pincers to show off his strength. The female starts to give in. But the sudden arrival of an unexpected intruder interrupts their mating. A fight is inevitable. Only the winner will earn the right to mate. The crab's powerful pincers can easily crush its opponent's hard shell and even slice off its feet. A fast strike. The powerful crab eventually defeats the intruder. It waves its pincers in victory. The stronger male has won the right to mate. It will go on to mate with more female crabs in its territory. Coastal wetlands can be cruel gladiatorial arenas, but more often, they provide shelter for numerous lives. There are 8 main bird migration routes in the world. One of them lies along the East China coast. If the coastal wetlands here are harmed, it will lead to food shortages and a loss of habitats, a calamity for migrating birds. The Yancheng Wetlands in East China's Jiangsu province are the winter habitat for red-crowned cranes. One has hurt its leg. It must replenish its energy before the end of winter to join the migration next spring. If it doesn't, it could be abandoned by the flock. It struggles to fit in with the other cranes and tries to eat as much as it can. A warm spring breeze spreads reed seeds in the air. Sensing the arrival of spring, some of the cranes start to dance. But the injured bird walks alone. All it can do is watch as the others frolic. If it wants to fly again, it has to recover as quickly as possible. The time for migration has come. A warm updraft supports the flock as it starts to take off. The injured crane wants to join the departing flock. It calls after its companions. The injury does not shake its resolve to fly. It runs with all its strength and takes off. Migrating birds must change their habitats according to the seasons in order to survive. This great migration is the longest journey made by any animal on our planet. The coastal wetlands in China are a wild land of endless vitality. They are cradles of life, arenas of blood, as well as homes and shelters. This wonder of nature can only continue if humans conserve it.